Oh,
welcome back, guys.
Salutations from everybody's basements. You're once again joining.
Check this out. We got a guest.
The Automotive Podcast, where this week we're doing a couple special things here. We are going to sort of be recording this a little bit for the audio purposes. So there'll be a couple of weird breaks, and we'll be numbering the episode kind of funny when we talk about it. The other great thing is, down here below us, we have Sean Svendsen joining us as our first guest guinea pig victim on the podcast here, all of the above. And so we will be talking tonight about the Hasegawa Summer Kits, which I know will throw everybody the entire time. A couple of discussion points of general things in the hobbies, and of course we'll be interviewing poor Sean down here about all of his, how he got started in the hobby and his position within the hobby that's but pretty much better known than it was, thanks to James and his video that he did on him on YouTube a few weeks ago. But one of the bigger guys involved in box art models and box art in general, just the actual layout of the box art. So kind of cool stuff we have going on there. So welcome to everybody. We will be keeping track of the comments, but we may not go necessarily into them as real time because we're taking sort of reset breaks as we go along here to sort of split things up, so it'll be easier for me to edit the audio portion of this later. So with that being said, guys, what's going on?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, welcome
Thanks
back.
for having me. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, Sean, you're the guest here. So one of the things we always do at the top of the show here is ask what you're working on. So in your actual personal modeling bench, outside everything that you might have going on the side and with projects, what are you actually working on?
It's funny, yeah. So I'm actually working on a box art project of all things. So I'm working on the box art for the Mobeus. I don't know how to pronounce it. Don't ask me. You'd think I would know, but I actually don't. Working on the Ford Wrecker. It's the 72 Ford Wrecker. So I have a test shot sitting on my bench. I have the parts actually sprung it. If you want to see a little sneak preview.
Yeah, we like that.
Wrecker bed. So one of the very nice part, very nice kit. So I have the parts spread out across my desk. I just painted some stuff over the weekend, and yeah, so working on that. And I'm trying to get it done for the NNL East. So I think that's in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get that put together so I can bring it to the table and put it on display. And so I'm doing what will end up being the model I'll photograph it for the box, and then eventually I'll do an illustration and do the decal design and the instructions. So that's
wow.
Yeah.
That is personally something I'm waiting for, as there is no tow truck available. I mean, you have a lot of things that were made into tow trucks over the years, but that's, an actual tow truck for a change. So
yeah, and it's a super nice kit. I've been really impressed. I don't know how many parts are in it, but it's like hundreds. It probably took me about 4 hours just to glue parts together to even be ready to start painting.
Oh wow!
So it's very, very detailed. So it's modeled after the Holmes Wrecker, and it's probably the most accurate one I think they've ever made. I was looking at some of the reference and comparing pieces, and it's spot on. So if you like that kind of thing, I think for people that like tow trucks and wreckers, I think you'll be impressed. And the one I'm working on is the 4x4 chassis. I'm not sure if there's several different versions they're going to do. I don't know if they're all going to have the 4x4 chassis. It's similar to the one that's in the snowplow, but this will have the dual rear axle, which will be different.
Oh, okay.
And, I'm not sure if they're doing a 2-wheel drive version or not, but I know that there will be other versions of the Wrecker beyond the one that I'm working on. The one I'm doing we'll have the big block Ford FE motor, and it's the 72 grill.
Okay.
So yeah.
James.
Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that over at East. It'll be really cool.
Yeah, fingers crossed I'll have it done by then.
19 days, no counting.
Yeah.
I'm putting the finishing touches on the Alpha model Audi RS7. I did a video earlier on how to do a perfect paint job or mirror paint job or something like that. And yeah, it's coming along. I got a few more little things to do to it and wrap it up and start a new project.
Any hint of what that is?
Oh, well, it's funny you should ask. So my friend Wenben sent me the new PZY kit box, BMW Z4 Hatsune Miku. So you can probably say more about it, James, than I can, but from what I remember, there was a kit long ago, and it wasn't very good, of this car, that it was in resin and it was real limited quantity, and now it's unobtainium. But please tell me more about the original kit that was out there, because I know you know.
All right, buckle in, kids. So there has been in the past a 1/24 scale resin cast thing that was allegedly a BMW Z4M coupe. Body wasn't terrible, but I mean, we're talking about something that was cast in the early 2000s. So obviously, even no matter what casting method you're using, not going to be the greatest. And then it was sort of one of those one piece conglomerated mob things of a chassis where the pan was in the interior, was all one big blob of something that kind of sort of looked like maybe it might have been a race car interior at some point in its life, but now it's been run through a photocopier 800 times. It was made by Good Smile Racing, the actual company that's attached to the racing team we know now. Those two kits, because there probably will be another version of that BMW in the not too distant future, but those two cars in real life, the BMWs, weren't actually Good Smile Racing cars. They were the first cars that ran Hatsune Miku on the car as a sponsorship. Right. Good Smile Racing develops in 2009, the year afterwards, and runs those Porsches that we have, those 911s. Those are the first of the cars.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So those BMWs, yeah, they're 2008, 2009 cars. 2010's the Porsche, and then those are kind of cool because like the Z4s that we got after that as race cars were the convertible Z4s, whereas those two cars are actually the coupe ones, the hardtop ones that were the first gen Z4s that were done. Decal wise, it's an number 808 car. It's the car that ran that year. They were a brand new race team. They stunk on ice, but it's a really cool looking car as far as the graphics package goes. There's an option in that box also to do, I think it's supposed to be the 2010 24 hours of Spa, right, but it's not. It's actually like the 2010 24 hours of Dubai. The car exists.
Okay.
It's just mentioned as the wrong race. It's Red Bull. We don't talk about that sponsor publicly. It's Red Bull. If you see it advertised, the Red Bull decals will not be on those photos because Red Bull will pitch a bitch, and that'll be the end of that project. But it's one of those things. Even in China, Red Bull is big enough to cause an issue with that.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah.
So
no tobacco, no energy drinks.
What are you working on anything?
Oh no, of course not. Oh, I'm working on selling things out of here. I'm working on hoarding things into here. But yeah, I have a couple of things I keep poking in boxes of. I would like to try to get something done for East, which again is 19 days away.
Are both of you guys planning to go to East, by the way?
Yes, we will both be there.
Awesome.
And then we had a local swap meet this past weekend for the little tiny model club that runs the third show of the year here. So I picked up the new 68 Coronet, so newly tooled body in here, along with the correct interior for a hard top, because the convertible interior. I said I'd buy one of these when it came out as a hard top because I was going to buy the convertible, so I made good on my promise.
Nice.
And then
I love these Mopars.
I'd say, and to finish off my Mopar collection from the show, I picked up the new Dodge Charger Pursuit. Anybody who knows my history of building, when I used to do custom police cars in the 2000s, and sort of my way that I stayed in the hobby and never got all the way out in my 20s, I could buy 100 of these, and then I'd have to sell 100 of them at an auction like 10 years from now, like I'm doing with all my Caprices and Crown Vics. But I bought one, because we have started using these in Pennsylvania. So I'd like to find somebody who'll make me a new set of Pennsylvania State Police decals, or Ohio, because I go through Ohio every day. So
that's a super nice kit too. I really
either
like
or.
That.
So
I didn't realize you were a police car guy.
Oh yeah, I actually run a whole police car website, and then after I graduated high school, I went to college for criminal justice, and then sort of kept my toes in the hobby, because I had girls, I had cars, but I never quite sold everything off. It's still some things I have that are from when I was 18, 20 years old, but I bought police cars by the gross because I was making customs. I actually have somewhere in this house the entire last supply of what was it called? Pursuit Plastics. They made a whole slew of decals from the Philadelphia area. And the guy was selling them. He's like, "Do you want this box?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I got him. It was like 8 copies of every single decal sheet he made. And I think I paid $50 for it, and those were like $10 sheet decals. So I mean, I made out, but now all that stuff's so old that maybe you know what? Maybe you could build it now again another time around, because all the people who would have had those cars when they're new, they're retiring, and they can take a 91 Caprice with them out the door as they book their 25 years in. Because I was thinking about that, because going to criminal justice for college was what I was going to do, was be in law enforcement. Ended up sideways into logistics, and was thinking, well, like, yeah, I'll turn 47, so I would have my 25 years in this year. I can retire, but no.
That's very cool. I love police cars. I have a police car fetish. And I've actually built a fair number of police cars, although it's been too long, and I need to get another one on my bench.
Like I told James, like, all the state police departments that would use a Charger, and there's about 38 of them altogether that would use 2016, 2023 body style like that. They've all changed just a little bit too much that you can't use like the old Chimneyville decals for them. Somebody has to get on a horse and get the screen print. And I don't know who that would be, because at this point, none of those people exist anymore. Because his first name's Jeff, but I can't think of the life of me what his last name is. They ran police car models for the longest time. He just changed it to, I think, Black Dog Diecast, because he isn't focusing on police cars that much. He's the one that bought Chimneyville, the names and the rights and all that stuff. So
yeah. Have you heard of anybody coming out with any new police car decals to fit the new Charger kit?
The only person that still makes decals on a regular basis is Bill Bozo up in Canada, and his stuff is like Alps printed, so it's not it's not good decals, if you want to put that kind of emphasis on it, but it's not screen printed stuff. And he got injured at work or something happened, and he wasn't making stuff for a while, so I don't know. It's right now there's just a valley, and it'll be interesting to see who steps in to fill it, if anybody steps in to fill it.
All right, you've heard it here, YouTubers. This is an opportunity, so get out there.
Right.
Anybody's got a few $1,000 lying around is willing to take a flyer on selling 500 sheets of decals in the future. I got a guy down here who could draw it for you.
That's true.
And the guy here could take all the pictures you need to draw it from. So
I'm going to take a break and talk about some comments here.
Sure.
Okay, so we got Carl William joined in. Tim Custom joined in. Carl's going to get the Coronet GT and paint it Surfer's turquoise. RB Model Works. Sean, do you have any new box art projects going? Which he must have joined in after you were talking about the.
Yeah, the Mobeus Ford Wrecker. So that's on my table right now. If you joined in late, I talked a little bit about that. Let's see. I know there's a couple. There'll be another version of a Mobeus kit. I actually don't even know the details of it yet, but I know it'll be, as soon as I get the record done, there'll be another one in the pipeline, and then there's more stuff coming for RC2 or round two. Round two these days.
Please, not RC2. No,
yeah,
no, we don't talk about those days.
I still occasionally call them round or RC2.
Tim Custom, for some reason, says, I like to stay away from police cars.
That's probably a good policy.
Frank joined us, and not Mr. Nacho did, and Onyx.
Cool.
Cool.
So,
Welcome, everyone.
I saw Mr. Brolin there for about 20 minutes at that show. He was buying that Liberty Walk Lamborghini that I had up on auction a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
So I went out there to collect my money.
Where's my money?
Yeah, exactly right. I told him, I said, hey, I'm just here to get my cash. All right, guys. So what we're going to talk about next will be the flyer that was put out 3 days ago from Hasegawa, and this will cover their June, July releases. This is sort of the Shizuoka Hobby Show preview, if you will. Now I will at least on my channel do a whole, Shizuoka show extravaganza like I like to do. That'll do more test shots and things of that nature. This is a flyer. It's pretty static as far as what the images go. But we're going to share this, and I'm going to zoom in here so that we can actually see what we're talking about. And then let me sort of double check to make sure we're showing that. Cool. Awesome. So down here in the bottom right, or bottom left, excuse me, I can't even tell where I'm at, are a couple of things that exist in Hasegawa. These are just like sort of straight reissue kind of objects. So another version of their Suzuki Jimny, I believe decals are the only difference. Another version of their Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 3. It's yellow, but when I look at the literature for it, it's molded in silver, so go figure why that's yellow in the box art. This will be a reissue right here with just decals added to it. The Subaru Impreza on the 2006 Swedish Fish Rally. From what I understand, the gentleman that drives this is from Poland and owns this company, the Serzenat, which apparently is Europe's largest maker of tile flooring. Yay! And apparently, when you're the maker of the largest tile flooring company in Europe, you get to run your own rally car and finish 31st in this rally. Thank you, Hasegawa, for making another award-winning model kit.
James, does that kit come with 1/25th scale fish?
It may. I mean, I'm not sure if this is a seahorse here or what this is, but it could be. Going up a level here, 93 Japanese Touring Car Championship. You have the Hasami Motorsports Unisea Jex car livery that would start the year before and then run through Super GT. Fairly famous one of these orange cars. It has new mirrors added to it, which I know is like, who cares? But for the aficionados of the GTRs, having these mirrors made up will pretty much cover every optional way to make a GTR. So Hasegawa's, whether they make any more kits or not, will have base kits available to make every GTR that ran from the whole 4 seasons that the R32 was dominant. You have the Blackjack version of their little Mini Cooper, whatever the heck this the 4-door truck version is. I can't think what the heck
that's
call
the
that.
4-door one. Nice.
Yeah.
Countryman.
Yeah, the Countryman. There you go. Thank you.
I used to own a Mini Cooper.
This shtick here is that the Union Jack is in monochrome, so that was what makes it the Blackjack. If you have ever bought one of these before, it's actually a pretty nice kit. I want to say they made this to be a rally car because they actually rallied these things at one point, but that never got done. And now we just keep getting like decal reissues of this car. So yay! There's another. Let's see, here 3,800 yen, so another $30 for a Mini. Over here, you got a 91 Japanese touring car. This is the I'm trying to think what the heck the Wed Sport. Yeah, Wed Sport team. This is a team car to a car they've already released. It's specific to the last race of the 91 season. The car finished second in the race, so that's always fun. I now have a huge pile of these and I need to build at some point. Rolling up here into some stuff that's a little bit more involved. They're going to reissue their 72 GTR with a whole bunch of PE added to it, which is what all this Japanese gibberish is pointing at the car. I have to admit that I have to see what the PE looks like, but it might be a reason to sell the one that I already have and replace it with the one with PE scripts because PE looks better than decals.
I have the old version. That's nice. It's a nice kit.
And over here we have the Toyota 92 CV for the 1992 24 Hours of Le Mans. Finished second place in its class, 9th overall. You're getting a whole new body because the way this is kitted together to make these larger headlight openings for the endurance car, which has the extra headlights, we had to cast a whole new body. So new body and pretty much everything you would get for the body. So headlights and bezels and canards and headlight covers and all that stuff. Over here, Mr. Gugamos, if you should ever see this, this would be resin girling all the things. This is literally known as the cool, sexy girl figure. I don't know what she's going to end up looking like when she's actually got a face sculpted to her, but yeah. Background here is an Isuzu 117. You do get the model and the resin girl, so you know if you don't have if you don't have a 117 and you happen to want a cool, sexy girl, then there's your option. A couple
divorce
of
starter.
Right. I say we have a couple of we talk about the Macross stuff every now and then. There's for the people that build, this isn't Gundam, this is a different universe, but they're making some new stuff for that, which is exciting for those guys. 1/12 scale icy machine, because you know who doesn't need some shaved ice on a scale comparable to a scale comparable to like a 2010 Shelby GT or a 69 Camaro. They actually make an entire series of these vending machines. Some of them are Naughty Magazine vending machines, which I was telling James that he needs to put behind like one of his like 1/12 Mach 1 kits, something like that, because I think that would get the IPMS excited. A couple of things with a little bit more included in it. We have a reissue because the new tool came out a year ago. So a new tool 93 version of the 300ZX 2x, they call it 2x2. So this is a 2+2. It's got one with the back seat in it and the slightly longer wheelbase. A naturally aspirated one, not a turbo for a change. So you got new bumper, new back wing.
There's no engine. So.
Well, this is true, but the bumper is different on the turbo. So it's got a different. You got the naturally aspirated front bumper, a new rear end for it, because I don't think that the naturally aspirated one has the Hikes 4-wheel steering system either. And yeah, I mean, more parts. Who doesn't like that? And I would point out here, as I was telling James when I was ordering this stuff, 3,300 yen. This is like this kit. This is the second release of what is a brand new kit. It's 150 some odd pieces without the new stuff being put into it, and it's going to sell at Hobby Link Japan for $25. So model kits are too expensive. No, they're not. This over here is a 66 Isuzu Bellet. Quite the charming little blob of an Isuzu here. This is backdating it from the kits that they put out recently, which are like 69s, which in this case signifies the single headlight front end. So you get a whole new front rear pan, new windows, new wheels, some new interior bits and pieces. And of course, your little grill here was, the more I look at it, the more it looks like the front end of a Ford product with that.
Yeah, it's definitely got a sort of early Falcon.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I was like, there's a car there that I can't think of, and then the cut the grass this for the summer, and this gotten a couple of comments that I've seen online in Japan where it said Ebro, the company Ebro went bankrupt, and somebody else was commenting first Ebro then Hasegawa, so this is not a well received announcement over there. But yes, this is a 1979 Nissan Silvia. I believe the basis and reason why we're making this specific car is, again, rally version. There is a Datsun 240 that is the rally car. This would make it slightly earlier than the kit that BMAX and Nunu made for their 240 RS. So, yeah, I mean, everything here is new. There's not even pictures of the plastic yet. It's all 3D CAD work down here. But is it anything that anybody here necessarily is going to, roll out and grab? Well, me, I ordered 7 things off that sheet of paper, but other than that, you're shaking your head up. You're shaking your head, James. No, we're not buying any of that. Nope.
I have weird automotive taste. So, like, I probably had all those things that you showed were completely under my radar until you've shown them, and now that I know they exist, I have to have them. Because it has wheels on it. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. I've never thought about building one of those before. Maybe I'd like to build it. And then
we need to make a pilgrimage.
Yeah, I always start.
We'll make a pilgrimage to James's house, and then you'll just go.
It sounds hysterical until you realize that, like, when I try to sell this stuff for auction on Facebook, I can't move it because it's such, I don't want to say unique because it's not that hard to find, but it's like this Japanese kits, and like selling them onto American Facebook is not the easiest thing in the world to do. I mean, I didn't buy them with resale in mind in the first place, but just trying to like I'll never get around to building that. Let me get rid of that. And it's like, I don't want that. What is this? Like $15. Come on, guys. Like, nope, no takers for $15. Like, it's half what I paid. Well, not half what I paid for, but it's half what it's worth. Nope, no takers. I'm like, oh man, eBay takes such a huge chunk out of your funds when you sell stuff. I just sold an alpha kit. It's a long story. We won't go into it. I think we've been here before. They sold me an alpha kit that I ordered one thing. They sent me another thing, and then they sent me a second one of the wrong thing. So I have two of the wrong kits that I'd never ordered. So I started selling them to get my money back so I could buy the right thing, which I did. And it's like I got 136 of the $160 I charged for that. So they took $28. And they went, take that if you want to use our service. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to sell. I don't really want to sell my kits. I already take a lump from PayPal on the auctions, taking a couple of bucks here and there.
Yeah, that brings up a good topic. I mean, I used to live on eBay, and then eBay got to be the point where, like you say, it just like takes too much of a bite out of it. And I'm wondering, like, what's the service that everybody uses now? Like, is it still eBay, or has something come along to replace it?
I don't think there really is. I mean, Facebook has.
I think people get on Facebook just on a specific group and say, hey, I've got these kits for sale, $40 a piece, and sell them like that. But I don't know that there's really a place.
Yeah. I mean, I always like eBay because if you put something on there, you could pretty much be rest assured you get top dollar for it, because there'd be 3 guys out in Nebraska that were 100 miles away from a hobby store. They were going to pay top dollar for it because there was their only access to it. But it feels like that disappeared, and then the fees got really high. And yeah, I haven't used eBay in a while, and I need to, because I have a mountain of things I need to thin out my collection.
Steve Courtney and Tim Custom both say go to shows. Shows are a good place to buy cheap kits. For me, I look for used Tamiya kits at shows, and never pay what they came out as. You know what I mean? I won't pay top dollar for anything either. I'm cheap.
Yeah.
I think the problem gets into if you buy. I have a very Frank called it esoteric, very esoteric collection, and one of the things I was trying to get rid of is a 4-door early '80s Nissan Skyline. This right here behind me, that I don't know how many people will really be able to see, is a Alfa Romeo 124 Spider resin kit. It goes on the Mazda MX-5 Tamiya kit. If I could get rid of that, because they only made like 100 of them, you can't find them, and they were like $80 when they're new. I bet you I could sell for $150 because you can't get that resin kit anymore. And above it is a Mansory from conversion for the AMG GT by USCP, Ukrainian Scale Car Productions. That's a pretty rare piece. I could get rid of that. Up here, this is all Lamborghinis, right? I can get rid of all these because everybody buys Lamborghini because everybody knows what a Lamborghini is. There ain't a lot of people on Facebook on a weekend going, you know what, I wish I had a factory stock 82 Skyline sedan. If I had one of those, I'd tackle that guy out in the parking lot and pay him $100 for it. And like, no, that doesn't happen. I looked on eBay, and if I was to sell that kit on eBay, there's not a single one in the United States right now. They're all in Hong Kong or Japan, and they'd all be $40 or $50 to get over here. So if I sold it for $35, which is more than I paid for it, I could probably sell it. But again, they're going to take 20% of that $35, and if you charge shipping, they take money out of your shipping. So it's like free shipping, just so I don't have to pay twice the fees. And
James, what's the most expensive kit that you've ever bought? What's the most you've ever paid for a kit?
The most I've ever paid for a kit is any of the Alpha stuff. It's by the time you get it shipped, it's $180 per. That's probably it. I've turned James onto it a little bit. Buyee, which is a third-party proxy bidding service for yen auctions. That can make things expensive because all the fees that you pay to get stuff, but you'll also get stuff that you cannot get anywhere else. If you're interested in the JDM kits, because it's equivalent, right? You go to every U.S. car show and there's 82 Revell kits for $5 because everybody has 2 of them and they don't try to get rid of them. It's the same thing in Japan. Everybody's got 82 Tamiya kits and they're just trying to get rid of them. So the prices equate out cheapness, but then you're paying an in-country shipping fee, you're paying an international shipping fee, you're paying them to bid on it for you, and it gets kind of pricey. But yeah. I have bought in the past a quantity of kits. I bought 10 Audi R8 GT3 kits at once, and that was $500 in one order. But the most I've ever paid for one unit was the Alpha stuff. I think 200.
I think I paid 300 for
anything.
I paid 300 for the 1/12 scale Ferrari Enzo from Tamiya. That's probably my most expensive kit.
Wow.
You're not getting around that either. That's just what that kit costs.
Yeah.
Now they're worth like 700, but I won't sell it.
Oh, he
you
will
guys
someday.
run in a different league than I do. I'm at $10. I'm a $10 kit guy. We were talking before, like if I can't steal it for $10, like nah, I'll pass. I think I recently
it's off camera.
The most expensive kit that I bought. So actually, just in the Columbus show, this is the most expensive kit I've ever bought. So I recently bought this one, mint Dodge Sportsman van, unbuilt. It's actually sealed inside, like you can still smell the plastic. Perfect. And I paid $110 for it.
Okay.
And that was like, it was painful to squeak that cash out of my. Probably most people are like, "Wow, you got a huge deal on that." I'm like, it was so painful for me to squeak that money out of my wallet. Let me tell you, but
what made you? Tim Custom says, "I'll give you $3 for it."
No.
So what made you decide to part ways with your wallet for that Sportsman Dodge van?
I've wanted one forever, and I just haven't seen one. And I've looked for build. I buy builder stuff. Stuff that rebuilders, things that I can. Lost causes, something somebody else would have easily thrown away, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I can save that. Yeah. With $50 worth of resin, replacement parts, and a lot of work and time. So I looked for a Dodge Sportsman van for a long time and just hadn't really run across anything. And I've really gotten to the point, I have about 1,000 kits. So I have way more than I'll ever build. There's no way I could possibly build that many kits. So I don't need another kit. So I'm like, if I'm going to buy a kit, I'm going to buy one good one, so I happened to see this one at the show in Columbus, and it was perfect. And I'm like, all right, and it's kind of like this sort of things. You either buy it when you see it, or you'll never see it again. And so I'm like, all right, I'll step up to the plate and buy it. And actually, it was a really good deal. I mean, I probably stole it for what I paid for it.
Right. James, were you trying to show us something there?
Yeah, if you look at this pile of Alpha models right here, that's $1,500 sitting on the shelf, right? I mean, it's 7 of them, so.
That's not all of them either, is it?
Oh no, heck no! That's I have 22 more sitting around there somewhere else.
I like how you guys, both your collections are very nice and orderly, and everything's mine's like sort of a pile over here. Different contrast, and probably a very neat, orderly model rooms. I build in a pile of clutter.
I imagine that's what Tim Customs look like too.
Touring cars, Group C cars. That's all that's all Lamborghinis. This is all Mazdas beside the resin stuff. This is all French cars down here. I was like, yeah. At some point in time, I decided to organize this lost all control.
What's the thing directly above your head there? I can see it looks like a dozen of the exact same thing.
Those are 13 Chevy Cruze kits. Those are 13 BMW M3 kits. This here is a whole bunch of Jaguar XJS touring cars, a couple of the impossible to find Volvo state wagons, BMW 6 Series Tamiya kits, BMW Sierra Tamiya kits, and a couple of Hasegawa 318s blended in. Yeah, I have too many of them, but I have decals for every single one of those. So
there's actually 13 different decal sets for that Cruze,
yep.
Chevy Cruze.
There are, yeah, there is. If you get into every season and it ran and stuff like that, and the great thing is if I build the box art car, the Chevy car, I'll probably use all 13 sheets of decals for it because those that was their first kit, and the decals were like abysmal crack festivals. So, and I don't mean like the stuff you buy on the side of the street. I mean they're cracking on you when you try to put them on a car. But yeah, I've had a lot of people do that to me. Like, well, why do you have 14 AMG GT3s? I don't know, because I have 52 sheets of AMG GT3 decals, and I don't have enough kits as it is. But I can only spend $40 on a model every so often.
Are you guys like me where you buy stuff not just because you want to have it, but like you really intend to build it? Like when I buy a kit, I have a plan to build it for sure. Like it's all mapped out in my head. I know exactly. And I've got kits that are 35 that I've had for 35, 40 years old. I still have a plan. I know what I'm going to do with it. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yes. Yeah, I'm the same way. I pick colors and everything as soon as I buy it, and then it gets lost.
Yep.
This right here is a decal sheet that I just got in from Lau over at LB Productions. It does the Macau GT winning car from this past season. Last race of the GT3 season is done on the street course in Macau. This would be the fourth sheet of decals I have to this Mamba livery on a Mercedes, and I will build every single one of them because they're each individually something. Like one's the ADAC GT Championship, one's the is this race one. That's all the I mean, it's it's an Audi for the Meng Audi. I bought this specifically because I have a Meng Audi that doesn't come with any real decals in it, so I needed something for that. eBay BMW, sure, why not? I mean, it's the goofiest livery ever. It literally looks like a child drew this on the side of the car. Like, hey, Dad, let me livery up your car to go to the racetrack. And then I have this one here, which is the Watson's car, which if you know your Macau stuff, which I get nobody here, including the people I'm talking to or anyone in this chat has any idea what I'm talking about with that. But it's a bottled water they sell in a drugstore in Hong Kong and Macau. And it's, it won the race. So sure. And why do I have two of them? Well, because there's two different decal options in here. I buy this kind of stuff because there's only so much of it. And if you don't get it, it won't be there.
Yeah.
I would consider myself to be close personal friends within the confines of 13-hour time difference with the guy who made these, and with Frankie, the guy that runs SK Decals. They've sold out of stuff. Like I've gone back, years later. Oh yeah, it's a race car decal for a bottled water. How many people are going to buy those? Well, enough that the sheet sold out, and now you can't find them. So I do a lot of buy them now, and if I have to sell them later, I could sell them later. Because somebody will want them. So there'll be the one person, like you said, in Nebraska, 1,000 miles away from a hobby shop that'll buy it. But
yeah, definitely for sure. Aftermarket stuff and resin stuff, like you got to buy it when you see it, because chances are you might not get a second chance.
I've reeled a lot of my purchases of like Revell stuff and round 2 stuff back because I know my local hobby shop will have that for the next 5 years. He'll have 2 in the back for the next 20 years, but this, this set of resin wheels is specific to that eBay car. I don't know how many, I mean, they're 3D printed and he's doing them in real time, but I don't know how many of these he's going to make. And if I don't buy them for the decals that I bought when I bought them, can I get them later? No, probably not. So it's worth the $10 to buy the set of wheels now, and it'll just sit here in my giant leaning tower of aftermarket Pisa that I have sitting here. That's right. It's 2 sets of drawers, folks. So, yeah. And it's literally split by automotive manufacturer before, and then split by race series, in case anybody's curious.
I'm gonna come to James' basement. Just look at all the aftermarket decals.
This is all Mercedes stuff. This is all BMW stuff. This is all McLaren and Audi stuff. And then I think this is all rally. This is all Japanese touring. This is all Japanese Super GT. And then this is like aftermarket paint down there. And the other side is a drawer for IMSA, a drawer for Macau specifically, a drawer for vintage touring cars that are not in Japan or Macau, modern touring cars that are not in Macau. Yeah, you get the idea. It's 597 sheets of decals, according to my
597 sheets of decals.
That's right.
You have more decals than I have kits. I'm the junior guy here between these two.
Say
my 300 kits, and I'm the junior guy.
Yeah, I hope my wife watches this at some point, because you guys make me look really good. Your collection is way larger than mine. I thought I had a big stash.
No. 300, not 1,000. 300.
Fair enough.
1,300? 300's in the number, yeah. I've mentioned before, my collection hit 1,400 and something went sideways. My brain went, "Whoa, that's too much." You got to start selling some stuff out of that.
Finally hit the limit, right?
Yeah, something about that number made my brain itch, and that was like,
somebody said in the comments that they have over 2,000. What is that? Who said that?
Who said that?
Who said that? Sorry, I can't find it. Killing time here.
I like Frank's Model Works comment. I should have diversified my 401k with crypto, bonds, and model house kits. Yes, you should have. We all should have. I had no idea that they would get so expensive. I mean, I guess I should have anticipated that, but model house.
What are you talking about? You pay $10.
Well, I know, but I mean, there's a time when you could have bought a model house kit for $60, $80, and now they're $500-600 for that same kit.
Yeah.
Oh, Frank, you kill me every time I watch a video, and this is a great one. I got married, moved out. I didn't have room for my stash. My father donated my entire stash to an orphanage. I couldn't complain because it was an orphanage. Well, those little children enjoyed their models, Frank. That's the most important thing.
Enjoyed your models, Frank.
Yeah, all right. Let's say David Ebert here saying that when I say few, it's about 1,000 kits. So there's another veteran. We've talked about this. We've talked about this before, and it's been a subject of a number of the aircraft and armor podcasts out there. That kit collecting and kit building are two different hobbies.
That's for sure.
And I think that's certainly a truth thing, because depending, especially what you're into, if you start getting into high end cars, or you start getting into modern race cars, or even vintage race cars with some of these decals, it's like, well, I have to have it. I bought that one sheet of decals on the off chance that I might use it someday, and now I have like the second place and third place car from that same race, and now I have to, I have to buy them all because it's a collection of something.
Yeah, I've never considered myself a collector. I consider myself a builder. Like, there's always a plan to build everything. It's just I can't build fast enough.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, but eventually you become a collector and you start curating it. That's what both of us have. We have organized, curated collections.
My wife says I'm a hoarder, so
When I'm getting close to finishing a project, I need to start another one. While I'm finishing the last one, because if I get to a dead stop where I finish something and I don't have something else started, it takes me forever to pick the next project. Like a week, like a week of just looking through boxes. Like, no, not that one, not yet. So yeah, I have to start another one before I finish one.
Do you guys usually build one at a time, or do you have multiple ones going on all at the same time?
I usually do one at a time because of the YouTube channel.
Okay. I usually build in assembly line fashion where I have 3 or 4 kits going on at the same time. And
Okay.
the reason I like to do that is just the efficiency of painting stuff. So if I'm gonna spray black, I'll spray 4 chassis or 4 of something. It's much faster to, especially like it, because I use 2K clear through the airbrush, and it's a
Mhm.
big hassle to like clean the airbrush and everything out. And it's like I want to economize my time and effort. So I'm like, I'm going to spray 3 bodies, for all the effort it takes to clean the airbrush out. So
You must mix a lot of clear at once. You, how many ounces do you mix at once if you're going to do 3 bodies?
Like 1 large glass jar, I guess. Let's see if I can. Usually like this size glass jar. And I'll mix up a cup that I might fill this twice.
Okay. Okay.
So I don't know how many ounces that is. But
I have these little graduated cups that I measure out 3 milliliters of, if it's like a 3 to 1 to 1, I'll do
yeah.
3 milliliters of clear, 1 milliliter of hardener, and usually 2 milliliters of thinner. But so I end up with 6 milliliters of paint that I'm shooting, and that's enough for 1 body and no waste.
Yeah. Do you guys use these little things to measure out and mix?
Yep, I do anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah, these are
I do.
great. I stumbled
Plus,
across those, and
let's say you can buy them on Amazon and bulk orders of 1,000 of them for like $10. So it's like,
Yep.
have it.
That's exactly
Especially at the rate of reverse that I build in, that's a lifetime supply.
Yeah.
I think that this is a great where we're at right here, and what we're discussing right before we come on the show is a great one for this topic. I didn't clear this with James because I wanted this to be at a good this. I think he could be too political with this if he knew the topic going in. So
Uh-oh.
managing expectations. This was just a topic du jour on one of the podcasts that I was listening to in the modeling realm, and to me, it's a twofold proposition. I think managing expectations on kits, as in what you expect the kit to be. This is what we're talking about, junky kits that you turn into something else. And then I think the other part of managing expectations are your personal expectations. I know James and I have been talking offline a lot. He's finishing up a project right now and was talking about finishing the project is the part he doesn't like because he likes all the stuff going into it. It's the final assembly that sort of like is not the enjoyable part of the build for him. So within the idea of, you have an idea when you open that model of what that's going to be. And as you wind your way through the build and it throws whatever curves it's going to throw at you, how do you go about managing what you thought it was going to be versus what it's turning into, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Sean, you're the guest. You go first. Manage on the kit.
How do I go about managing my expectations?
Yeah.
I mean, I always start out with nothing ever comes out like I expect it to. You in my head, it's going to come out amazing, right? I mean, I have a vision for. I'm pretty good at having a vision for how I want it to end up, and then inevitably, something goes goes astray, or I don't know, could be sometimes the paint doesn't come out right. Sometimes the I've lost parts that I needed. I'm like, well, gonna use a different set of wheels then, or or I think I was building a '68 Ford Galaxy, a rebuilder, and I had like one windshield, right, and I cracked it and broke it as I was building, and then I couldn't. I was like, well, crap. So it's not
what are you going to do now?
You're not going to get another '68 Ford Galaxy kit very easily, and I have hundreds and hundreds of windshields of old kits and couldn't find anything that was relatively even close. So I think I ended up bending some acetate, clear. Didn't come out perfect, but for me, like I I'm not a perfectionist. I want something. I don't really build for contests. I sort of just build for myself and my shelf, and it needs to look good, from about 5 feet away. So if I can live with the end result from a distance of about 5 feet away, I'm like, yep, that's good enough, and I'll move on to the next one. So that's my expectation, is just kind of like keep continually lowering it until I'm like, all right, good. Now let's get another one and move on.
My results will meet my expectations at some point.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Sean. I know you do a lot of the box artwork for round two, and round two obviously puts out stuff that is vintage. Does that person, can you separate the work from like the reality of that, in the sense that like people will buy the old 50-year-old whatever, and then they throw the ever-loving fit about what an awful model kit it is, where had you done like 10 seconds of Google research, you would have realized it was an old model kit and it was going to be something that was going to require you to actually have basic modeling skills. Like, does that
Yeah.
bug you at all when you're just like, why didn't you, like, you knew what it was because you built, you did all this work for it. Is it just work that you do that's just, I did this and it's off the, and it's off the races and I don't think about it again? Or do you sit there and be like, Jesus, golly, folks, could you just for a half a second think about what this is before you bought it and lose your mind online about it?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's different schools of thought. For me myself, I like kits that look good at curbside. I mean, I build in a curbside style, so I don't really. I'm not that fond of like a bunch of engine and chassis detail. In fact, I usually glue the hood shut and I don't even bother. Like, I hate engine wiring and chassis detailing. I've painted a lot of kits, the flat black on the bottom, and moved on and never even worried about. So but I like building that. I think it's fun to just have a nice looking kit and have it done. And I'm not a detail, um, crazy person, and I'm not a perfectionist. I think for me, I like it's got to look right. Like the body's got to look right. It's got to look, proportionally correct. Um, and I think a lot of the AMT, the older AMT vintage stuff, the bodies looked really good.
Yeah.
And I think, and those kits are relatively, and especially the newer ones that they've come and redone, they've worked a lot to sort of fix I would say the assembly flaws or challenges. Like, a lot of those kits the older kits had huge gaps between the chassis and maybe the bumpers, and you somehow had to
Right.
fit stuff together and use your imagination how they would fit together. I mean, they've come back in and put pegs and bosses and stuff so you can actually assemble things in a reasonable fashion, and it'll actually fit together. And they've corrected a lot of those stuff. In a lot of instances, they have not, or they chose not to improve, or I wouldn't say improve, just add a lot of extra engine and chassis detail. And I think that's fine. I think it replicates the look and feel of the original kit, but it's easier to build than the original kit. And for the people that want to add more detail, there's lots of ways to. I think the guys that like that kind of stuff are capable of adding that more detail on their own. So I don't fault them for that approach to reissuing this kits. I think it's a good approach.
Like the Craftsman
Yeah,
series.
yeah. I get it. Some people are like, that I want all the engine chassis detail. I fully understand it.
From a personal aspect, like, I know that you just did, because you just showed it off a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a couple of days ago, the box art for the 64 Chevelle Malibu SS.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of work went into it. It looks great. I can't wait to see what that is. Well, actually, wasn't it in Detroit they actually had boxes?
Yeah.
James.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was saying, so I've said, still, the box art looks great for But like, and that's my separation of like personal and work. Like, there's gonna be a bunch of people complaining that thing doesn't have an engine in it, and you're sitting there going, "Man, I worked really hard on that. And that looked really good." And the first thing you're complaining about is the fact that it doesn't have an engine. I feel like that's my work you're shitting on,
Well, I mean, and to be, I had nothing to do with the guys at Round Two. They're the ones that do all the
Well,
tooling.
yeah, I understand that.
On the kit. So I don't bear any credit or responsibility for the contents of the kit. My work is relatively, relegated to the outside of the box. So
No, fair enough. I it's just something I was curious about because it's like people, the internet is one large hot take in a 24-hour cycle.
Opinions are like belly buttons, right? Everyone's got one, and so.
Now, for personally, the managing kid expectations, being the guy who for the longest time did a YouTube show every week about what was being released in model kit wise, like I got well versed in the history of this stuff, so getting surprised by a box of something isn't something that occurs to me that much. I just don't buy things that I don't want to deal with, so I don't have that issue of it. As far as managing expectations of what my builds are, and I don't know if James can relate to this or not, but being a YouTuber within the confines of putting your work out really publicly, as opposed to something that just gets seen at a show or just gets shared among your friends or something like that, there's a little bit of, and I will admit that the reason why I don't work on stuff a lot of times is there's a little bit of self-imposed, because nobody's forcing me to make a YouTube channel, of this content has to look good when I put it out there. I have told James before, I've told some other people that are in the chat that I'm personal friends with, that like my greatest fear is that I show people stuff and they go, "Oh yeah, that's just cool," and then they're in another chat room over here going like, "Jesus Christ, did you see that shit he just put on this channel? Can you believe it?" Yeah. So for me, it is trying to, I'm not a perfectionist to like the nth degree. There is a cutoff point with me of like, that's all the better it's going to get on this build. Maybe we'll tack that on another build, but I think that even for everybody who's in the comment section over here that has their own YouTube channel and isn't just here chatting, like there's a pressure to it that gets into like what you're putting out there, because it's not just somebody may see my 50 subscriber Instagram and be like, "Ah, that's crap," or "That's great," or whatever it is, but putting it out there, there's a level of standard that it has to meet to get put out there. And this Citron that's sitting here, this has been sitting here for 5 years now, at a point where I just need to paint suspension components, but I don't like the way the engine turned out, and I don't want to put it out publicly to people. Like, I should just build the stupid thing, and if nobody ever sees it, nobody ever sees it. Like, what Citron? I don't know any Citron. It's a Ebro went bankrupt. Pay no attention to the French station wagon off to your right there. But it's just one of those things of, I have airbrushes. I use them on small parts. I haven't airbrushed an entire body yet because I'm convinced it's going to come out like crap, and it'll be on something that I'm putting on the channel, and then I have to try to explain, well, guys, I done screwed up the project that we're working on, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been an artist like my entire life, and I've sort of learned that no matter what you do, somebody's going to love it and somebody's going to hate it. And so I've just sort of accepted that. I guess it doesn't, for me personally, it doesn't really sort of faze me. But I will admit there has been a few kits that I've built that I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to take that to a show. Like, I don't want anybody to know that, like, it didn't meet my standard. I might still put it on my shelf, but I don't want, it wouldn't make myself feel good to share it with the world and public. So yeah.
Mr. Tester.
The guys in my model club benefit from all the models that I don't that don't like the way they came out. I've given away so many paint jobs, because I don't strip paint. I just give them away. If I don't like it, I just give it away. But years and years and years ago, poor fathers, whatever. I used to build high-end Mopars, and I would kit bash and take a piece out of this kit and a piece out of this kit to make the ultimate Mopar, and I was so into the detail of it. And now, if a kit doesn't go together well, or it isn't manufactured or designed well, I'll just pass it right by. Maybe I'm getting lazy, but I'm just focusing on, you know, the paint job and the way it looks on the shelf now. The resin printing stuff is kind of opening up my eyes a little bit to putting in that work, because they do need so much prep just to make it even look like something that came out of a box. But yeah, for the most part, I'm kind of a lazy modeler now.
What
because
about
of YouTube, and you know, nobody wants to watch a project evolve over 6 months. They want it done in 2 days or 2 weeks. So yeah, like a month. It takes me about a month to build a project, and yeah, I'm busy maybe 3-4 hours a night on a project for a month to build something.
I have a short attention span, and I just don't have the capacity to build anything for longer than a couple months. Like really about 40 hours is probably about the most I would really want to spend on a kit, and I want to move on to the next one if I haven't finished it. So and as such, I'm not a perfectionist, right? And I'm not a detail hound, rivet counter kind of guy. But I really appreciate it. I go to the model shows and see guys that have spent thousands of hours on building stuff and have every little, you know, bolt and fastener, and I'm in awe of it. I wish I could be that person. I wish I could devote 3 or 4 years of my life to building one model, but I'm not that guy. But more power to you if you are. I appreciate your work, and you can take all the trophies home. You can have them all.
Right.
You deserve them.
I'll never win best of show. I never will, because I don't want to compete at that level.
Yeah, myself neither. Yeah, I used to compete when I first started building. I don't want to date myself, but a while ago, right? I used to go around the model shows, and would compete in more competitive, and realized in order to do well, I was going to have to level up my modeling and spend a lot more time doing stuff that I just didn't really enjoy doing. And I really, you know, for me, the hobby is about just doing something I like and spending time doing, you know, I didn't want it to be a job. So yeah, I don't build that way, but I certainly applaud those that do.
what is this fun that you speak of?
It's supposed to be fun. I don't know. For me, it's fun. You know, it can be. It's supposed to be.
I like trying new techniques. That's my thing. The this new kit from Wenben has so much photo etch stuff that needs to be placed exactly. I'm a little nervous about it, but I bought some photo etch scissors on Amazon today, so I'm stepping up my game. I'm not going to use a hobby knife to cut my photo etch pieces.
Nice. I didn't even know.
Next thing will be a bender. I need one of those things now.
I didn't even know they made specific scissors just for photo etch.
You can. My friend John Zweber turned me on to him when I was in Arizona. He would like need a piece of photo etched in the middle of the fret, and he would just snip right to the piece, like he was cutting through paper or something with these photo etch scissors. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I only need this one piece." And I'm like, "But." He goes, "I only need the one piece. I have 6 of these. I don't care."
That's cool. Yeah, I'm kind of like you too. I would like to challenge myself to learn maybe a new skill every once in a while, or like I'll pick a project and go, oh, this will be a good opportunity to try to do something that I haven't done before, and try to, you know, experiment. So yeah, I can appreciate that.
Are those photo etch scissors?
Yeah, these are the Tamiya PE scissors.
That's what I ordered today. Yep.
Digging in the drawer for something that isn't in my drawer. That was productive. But yeah, these are the PE PE scissors, and then Tamiya makes a small PE bender, and they make a large PE bender. This PE bender, unless you're building like ship railings, this one, most PE is embossed, printed, however you want to look at it, with a hinge in it. It's just you really don't bend PE by hand anymore. Most of the newer stuff is demarcated for the fold lines, so it's just a matter of folding it on those weak points in the metal.
Right.
Nice.
Again, like I said, we're not building a 1/350th ship with real wood decks and stuff like that. So we're not bending the heavy brass stuff that you would get on a ship railing or something like that.
This show is educational. I'm learning new stuff.
Yeah, we'll tell you all sorts of stuff you never knew you needed before you got here, and take all your money while we're at it.
We're gonna cost you a lot of money, Sean.
Yeah. I've actually started to pay a lot more attention to tools. I didn't realize how under tooled I was until I started watching YouTube and Instagram. I'm like, what's that tool? I didn't know that existed. I think I was watching your James, your painting video on the Audi you just did. I didn't even realize there was an anti-static brush. I'm like,
okay.
What's that? Like, I need that. I didn't know that existed. I got to get one of those now.
Yep.
Does it really work?
It really does work too.
Because
it
seems
like
I
didn't show that. Yeah, there's a tiny side too.
Yeah, there's a little one under the bottom here.
Oh.
To get in all your little nooks and crannies.
I got to get one of those. I used to paint, so I worked at for many years. I worked at I'm a product designer by trade, so I worked at a consulting firm, and we had a prototype shop, and we had a full-size drive-in spray booth that you could drive a car into, and I did all my painting at work, and dust-free, perfect paint jobs. And when I left there and I came home and I got a small little booth and started, everything's full of dust. Like, oh God, my paint. I felt like I got knocked back down to my teenage years of trying to figure out how to paint model cars. It was definitely, I had to buy polishing, cloths and tools, which I'd never ever used before. I used to just lay down perfectly gloss, smooth paint jobs, never polished anything. And I'd see guys and talking about polishing. I'm like, why would you need to polish a model car? You just spray it. How hard is that? I came home into my own dust-filled environment and wow. So yeah, I need help.
Yeah.
You never really truly appreciate because he's in the same basement I have, the rafter open basements, how much dirt rains down through the floor through the course of the day. And it's like, oh yeah, look at this. I have fuzz in my drop shaft. That's not even a big enough thing to get enough paint on to get fuzz stuck to it, but it's stuck on there. Thank you. Have a nice day.
I paint in the basement too.
Well, yeah, I know, but yours is finished. Yours is not. You don't have.
No,
rafters,
it's not.
Unless you're on the other side.
Yeah, I'm on the other side.
One side of that basement. Yes,
one side is finished. Yeah.
I've been there, don't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other side of my basement, I maybe should paint over there. I have a nice in the video that James did.
The part that I showed was the nice
that's
side.
The nice side. This is where the dust and dirt happens. So it's not. Probably should find a better place to paint, or at least get an anti-static brush, I guess.
For the folks following in the comments along YouTube, this is going to seem like a weird cut edit, but for everyone who ends up listening to this later, it'll make sense. All right, guys. So tonight our guest is Sean Svendsen. He's been with us for the whole episode here, giving his opinions on stuff. But now it is time to put him on the spot and give him a little interviews here, so we get to know Sean a little bit better. I'm sure James has prepared a whole ream of questions over there. No, he's saying no. for the radio audience, he has not prepared for this at all. So, Sean, basic background, how did you, when and how did you get started building? How are you a youth builder? You're the 8-year-old and stuff like that, or did you get it later in life? Tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, no, I've been building model cars pretty much as long as I can remember. So I used to spend every weekend with my grandparents, and I've always been obsessed with cars. Like I'm just a deep in the wool car guy, and I have friends, and they're like the difference between them and me. There some of my friends like cars. I don't like anything but cars. Like it's cars are my thing. And I had a grandfather that was also really a you know a diehard car guy. And when I was a little kid, he introduced model cars to me. And so when I would spend the weekends with him, and I remember the first kit we built together was a Pyro 49 Ford kit, like 137.
Wow.
So we bought at the dime store, like, they called it the dime store, right? So this would have been the Woolworths. I think we went to and I don't even remember, I don't remember buying the kit, but I remember him buying some paints and showing me how to paint a model kit and gluing it together. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I don't even know how old I was, maybe 4 or 5. I mean, I was
Wow.
pretty little. Um, and then I loved going to the store. Like whenever I'd go to the grocery store or the department store with my mom or my grandmother, I'd be like, just leave me at the toys section and I'll just look at the model kits. And I just would go in the model kit section. Back then, they'd have 20 feet of, floor to ceiling model kits. And I just stared at the model boxes and the artwork. And I think that's really the first thing that like got me interested in model cars and artwork. So I was heavily influenced by, I think steered towards being a designer or an artist by looking at all the box art illustrations. So I built models my entire life, all through high school. I've never stopped, really. And so then I went off, to art school, became a industrial designer, did product design for the bulk of my career, and worked on all kinds of. I worked at a consulting firm where we did consumer products and industrial products, and I did a lot of sporting goods. And if you've ever been to Lowe's and bought a Cobalt tool, I designed the design language for Cobalt tools. So that blue and gray and sort of the signature look they have, that came from me and my team. And probably one of the more recognizable things I worked on.
And that
And then,
toilet.
yeah, I did a lot of toilets. I shared James. You want to look it up? So I designed a toilet inspired by a Dodge Viper. It was it was literally my inspiration. If you look it up, you can Google it. It's American Standard Savona toilet. If you look at the side view, it's got this sweeping curve along the pedestal. It's directly inspired by a Dodge Viper. So yeah, I worked on a lot of toilets, worked on all kinds of stuff, golf clubs, all kinds of weird things. And I think I was in the world of model cars, and I had seen that Dave Burkett, the Model King, I think the early 2000s, he started reissuing, or he was private labeling some model kits under his own private label. And I think he first started off. So I think Racing Champions owned all the tooling for AMT, MPC at that time. And there was a lot of people there that didn't. I think the company had sort of lost the brain trust for model cars when they inherited all the tooling. And so
They wanted to do die cast then. Yeah.
They had a lot of stuff they didn't even know what they had. They didn't know they didn't know what modelers would even want. And Dave Burkett was, I think went to model shows and sold a lot of stuff. And so I think the first couple of kits that he did, I think they were just using the instruction art in a plain black and white box. I think he did a 63, they reissued the 63 AMT Chevy Impala with just the black and white instruction line art.
Didn't they do a Thunderbolt too?
Yeah, I think he did do a run of the Revell Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so.
and then he did it. He had a family member or somebody doing some box art for him, and they did I think he did the 62. They'd found the tooling for the 62 Pontiac Tempest altered wheelbase car and reissued that and a couple other things. And so I was like, oh, that looks like an opportunity. Maybe I should reach out to him. Maybe he would be interested in, um, maybe working together. I could do the box art for him because, like I said, grew up. I was heavily inspired by model kits and that those illustrations, and I always thought it'd be fun to work on something like that. And I was designing toilets, so I was like, I was working on a lot of stuff that I really wasn't passionate about. Right? I mean, I did fine as a career, but it just didn't really put the wind in my sails the way that model cars did. So I always thought it'd be fun to work on something like that. So actually I don't remember how I got his for information, but I emailed him and I said, if you ever need any help with box art, I might be interested. And he's like, okay, well, do you have any samples of anything? And I had some card concept sketches and stuff that I sent him, and so we struck a deal. And then the first kit I did was the Ken's and Leslie funny car Cougar.
Right.
Yeah, and back then Dave was really good at like digging through the tooling that those guys had that they didn't even know what they had, and they didn't even know what would sell well. And he was willing to also. They weren't interested in releasing something unless they could sell it to Walmart and get guaranteed 30,000 run of something. And he was like, no, I'll buy. I think the minimum run at that time was, my memory's bad on that, but I'm going to guess it was something like maybe 5 or 6,000 kits, which is really low. Like Walmart would never even, that would be way too low for them.
Right.
Even the hobby store distribution channel, that would have been way too low. But he was willing to guarantee that he would just buy a whole container load of something, and then he would resell it through his shows, sort of network. So he was able to put some stuff out in the marketplace that nobody had seen for decades and decades, and so that presented an opportunity to do some kits. And so that was the first one I did, and then did a bunch of them. And I think I worked on Model King stuff for about 10 or 15 years. And then that sort of introduced, or I started to get a sort of a name, and people started to, within the industry, there's a small group of people that talk to each other. So I ended up doing some work for Revell. So I did a series of different box designs. I didn't actually do illustrations for them because they were mostly doing photography of the kit inside the box. So they didn't want to do illustrations, but but I did layouts for, so the Chip Foose kits, all the ones that he did that were branded as a Chip Foose kits. I actually did the layout of the box, and then they would put a photo of an actual model in there. And then I also did the so if you ever seen the Ed Roth, they at one point they had reissued the Ed Roth. I think it was the, let's see, I might have, sorry. So they had reissued this kit, right? The Rat Fink, and they wanted a little paperboard box, or a paperboard model of the Ed Roth garage. And so I actually designed, it's like a paperboard assembled 3D garage. So I actually designed that and did all the artwork for it, and did the die cut so they could, fold it. So that was kind of fun. I did a few projects for them, and then let's see, there was one at one point. So good, interesting story. Dave Burkett always wanted to do the Ford pickups. So the 67 to 72 Ford pickups. That had been a dream of his for a really long period of time. This was pre-Mobeus days, right? So, and he'd been talking about me. He's like, I want to get these done. I don't know how, like he had no resources to build a model kit from scratch, but it was something he was really interested in doing. And he eventually synced up with the Mobeus guys, kind of said, hey, I'm willing to fund, a lot, and basically the development of this kit if we can get it done. And so that was before they'd ever built anything. So that was before they were doing the Hudsons, and they knew they wanted to do the Hudson. But they so they did the development work on the Fords, and I did the 69 and the 70, I think. That one. And I think they used some brochure art for the other ones. So I would do the ones for Model King. They had a full-time graphic designer for Mobeus that did the Mobeus branded stuff, and I did the Model King versions. So I still do work for Model King and Mobeus. So yeah. And then at some point in time, I think I started talking to Steve Goldman. And Steve Goldman and I knew each other because he used to do some work for Mobeus, and we would chat about things at different times. He ended up over at Round 2, and we connected, and he's like, hey, would you be interested in doing any box art for us? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So then last year, I think I did 6 or 7 kits, and then just this year, I've done a couple new ones that haven't come out yet. So
Awesome.
Yeah,
exciting.
So yeah, fun stuff. So I don't know how many I've done. I've lost count. Probably 30 or 40 different kits at this point, I think, over the past 15 or so years.
Sean, do you have the Z28 handy?
Which one?
The 70.5 Z28
Oh,
that you and I shared the box art for.
Yeah, I think I did.
This is how I met Sean.
I got a beat up one. Yeah, this one. So I forget which is yours, the green one or the
you did the green one.
No, I didn't build either one of these.
What?
No.
I'm mistaken then.
Yeah, no, this was one of the very few that I never did an illustration for and never built the model for. I did. So yours was the
bronze one, yeah.
The bronze one.
I thought you did the green one.
I do not remember who. Let me see. It's actually written on the box. So it was Tom Miller. Tom Miller, if you're watching.
Oh, okay. Congratulations, Tom. I thought you were Sean.
Yeah, no, it's actually, so this came about. I think the story behind this one was Dave wanted to reissue this one. He was doing really well, and there was one year where he wanted to do about 12 kits, and I just couldn't do them all. That was, I was just doing work on the side as a freelance gig, so it's not my full-time thing, and I couldn't pump them out that fast. And he wanted to do that one, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I'll do the box layout, but if you can get somebody to build the models, then I'll just photograph them, and we'll push it out the door. So I did the decal design for that one as well.
Okay.
And then you guys shipped me the models, and I just photographed them.
Actually, I gave it to Steve, and Steve sent it to you.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know you at that point. I didn't even know who you were. In fact, I had not remembered until you'd mentioned them. Like, James Tester, that name sounds familiar, but I don't remember. Oh, okay.
Now that James's entire last 3 years of his life's been a lie. So outside of all the box art stuff, going backwards a little bit, for folks that are new to our podcast, we're Automotive podcast. Duh, the name should have told you. But did you build other stuff as a kid? Did you build tanks, planes, and stuff like that?
The only time I've ever built anything other than a car was, so I tried to get my kids. I have two boys. Desperately tried to get them interested in model building and anything with cars related, and miserably failed. But they took a slight interest in building Star Wars things. So when they were little, I think we built like an X-wing TIE fighter and some stuff like that, and a few different military jets. Just kind of one day weekend projects. But other than that, that's everything I've ever built had wheels on it.
Yeah, so I've been primarily a car modeler forever, but there was that one point in time in the 80s where Monogram had that like subscribe to a Snaptight kit a month thing, and my parents signed me up for that. And so you get like the space shuttle, and I don't know what scale, it must have been a 48 scale, like F-16 and stuff like that. So I can't say that I've never built a plane, but I haven't built a plane in like the last 35 years that I actually had to glue together. So the cars are my thing.
Yep. Unless it's got wheels on it, it's not on my radar.
Now, have you budget modeling aside, have you gone and tried to find a Pyro 32, Ford to rebuild that? I know a lot of people will do that. I have an 85 Monogram Pontiac Firebird that is the first model kit that I ever built that, is always in that back of my mind. Like, I'm going to build another one of those that doesn't have gloss yellow paint where the gold was on that car.
Yeah, I'm not that nostalgic for them. I don't. First of all, it's a wrong scale. I am a scale bigot. I will admit. If it's not even I'm a 1/25th scale. Like, I will refuse to build a 1/24th scale because it just doesn't. It's the wrong scale. I know. You got to have some. You got to draw the line somewhere, and you got to have standards. And that is my. When you put them together, one's just slightly larger than the other, and that's a deal breaker for me.
25th scale looks small to me now that I'm used to building Japanese kits.
Yeah, all the things that I like American, and I like the early AMT, Johan, NPC stuff. So that's what I want to build, and everything is in that scale. And then if the odd thing outside of that just looks odd.
Right.
But I know I'm also, leaving out a ton of nice kits that.
Well, right. So that actually, the scale difference thing just came up recently on a YouTube video. Gentleman was in here, but I don't think he's here anymore. Where he was swapping in a 3D engine into a 1/25th scale car, bought the 3D printed engine, and of course it's printed in 1/24 scale, so it's dimensionally just that little bit too big, wide and lengthwise, to fit into the engine bay. And I guess the material with 3D engine said, contact us for printing it in other scales. He said, can you print this in 1/25th scale? The guy wrote back to him and said, well, no, because it's like 2 millimeters worth of difference. It'll fit, blah, blah, blah. And long story short is, if he had to order an engine from somebody else that would actually print it in 1/25th scale, and it's that thing of like, well, that 2 millimeters is 2 inches in real life. If you go to AutoZone, they sell you a filter that's 2 inches too big to fit on underneath your cam cover. That ain't gonna work. I appreciate what he was saying, but a lot of that 3D scans, the 3D printed stuff, the printer guys aren't designing that. That's being designed. A lot of that stuff is in the Ukraine and Latvia and Estonia and all these satellite, states of the former Soviet Union. For apparently whatever reason, CAD CAM was something that everyone over there learned, because it seems like so much of that design work is done over there. And it's like, well, yeah, to those guys, 1/24 scale is the right scale. Like 1/25th is the odd thing out. They designed it for what they're used to. And
it totally is. 1/25th is just a weird. It's wrong. It is wrong. 1/24 scale is correct. It's just that the things I want to build are all on 1/25th scale. So.
Like I totally get the history behind both, why one was developed and the other one was developed, but it's very interesting that for whatever reason there was never any unification of that. There was like Tamiya made 1/35th scale tanks because RC motors fit inside of them, and everybody just made 1/35th scale tanks at that point because that just suddenly became the scale for big tanks, because 148 scales, tanks were more of a standard back then. It's like Revell Monogram had that opportunity until all of a sudden Monogram kits started being 125th scale right after the Monogram name sort of faded away, the 59 Impala and the 59 Cadillac and stuff like that. It's like, I grew up in the United States. I built 125th scale kits as a child, obviously, because the Mueller era of AMT is my teenage years to a certain extent. I born in 77, so like I built those kits, but at the same time, like, you do realize we're wrong, right? 124 scale is everybody else but us, and we're the oddball out. Protesting that 124 scale was wrong is it though? Yeah, it is, but no, it's not.
Yeah. I'm sure that's a topic that'll be debated until the end of time.
It's a very interesting. It's like at no point any American company other than Salvino's making their new next gen cars in 124 scale, because they're the same scale as the Monogram cars are that they own the tooling to. But no one ever went just like, oh, we're making 124 scale. Nobody ever just flipped that switch and from here on out, because one of the things that you can consider being a reason for the sales failure of like the Revell Tuner series is they made a series of import cars that absolutely none of the aftermarket fits for, because that aftermarket is all Japanese and it's all 124 scale, and you made 7 kits that are 125th scale, and now none of the engine parts fit, none of the wheels fit, none of the body kits fit, and it's like, that might have been something just for that one time where we go, we're going to make this 124 scale. Scream and yell all you want to, but it's going to it'll be easier in the end for everybody if we just make this the wrong scale.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like you have to kind of know your audience and what, like if you're going to do an import car, probably 124 scale does make sense. If you're doing like something that's 60s and 70s American muscle, then I think 125th scale makes sense, because like I say, at least for me, I want to group things next to each other and have them look like they're from the same universe, right? Like one shouldn't. So, with the Savino's kits being 124 scale, that makes total sense too.
Yeah, so then their older vintage stuff is 125th scale, so that it's the same scale as all those old MPC AMT NASCAR kits were made back in the 60s. So there's a lot of people complain about that scale difference, but there's forethought into the reason behind that. The vintage stuff is the same scale as the vintage stuff. The new stuff's the same scale as the 80s to present NASCAR, so it all works out. But I'd love to know who the guy at Italeri or Italari, depending on how you want to pronounce that, was the guy who decided that bikes here are going to be 1/9 scale when everybody else was making 112 scale motorcycles. Like, well, why? It made sense to somebody somewhere.
But then, like Tim Custom brought up, 1/20th scale, which is just odd. And Lindbergh did those 1/20th for a while.
That was Ernie Pettit's pet project. He did that at MPC, and then when he got in with Lindbergh when it was up in Toledo, he decided he was going to do that there too. And it didn't take off at MPC, and it certainly didn't do anything favors for Lindbergh, which is a shame, because they're really nice. A, they're really nice kits, and B, they were subject matter that would have been really nice to have in the right scale.
I remember being very disappointed at the time, because I had an S10 pickup was my daily driver, and I think that was one of the first things that they reissued, and was like, it's 120 scale. What?
So the last of the square body S10s, I think I was a 93, and then they made the newer S10s, and then they're the only ones that made a GMC Sonoma, and then they made they made the Explorer Sport, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, that hard body Nissan pickup truck, and it's like, you realize how many Nissan hard body pickup trucks you would have sold if you would put that in 124 scale? People would still be buying that kit. They'd be beating AMT's door down to get that reissued, but you put it in a goofy scale, and I know AMT did reissue it in 120th, but I don't know how well that actually sold. It might have, just because it was old and you couldn't find one, but it's a shame, because like I said, I built them up as a kid. I still have them actually built up somewhere. They're really nice model kits from an engineering and fit and finish standpoint, but just 4 inches to 4 inches to the real thing too big. That's all.
Yeah, because I mean, you want to be able to like swap parts from other kits. I think is for me, like I kit bash stuff, so like I have a lot of potential options to I can customize kits. So if it's a weird scale, then I'm like, I got nothing. I got so.
Let me say a couple of comments in the comments for the radio audience who can't see this. The people saying here Salvino's Indianapolis kits are coming out and they're in 1/20th scale. Again, that's the thing. Open wheel cars are 1/20th scale. That Tamiya made that standard, and for the exception of some Hasegawa stuff and the Revell Germany stuff, those kits are 1/20th scale. They're going to be that scale, and they'd be tiny in 1/24 scale. If open wheel cars are not big in real life, they're not NASCAR cars. They're teeny. Go get a 1/24 scale F1 car and get the little itty bitty thing. They're only like 5 inches long, and a regular car is 7. It's a noticeable visual difference. 1/20th scale open wheel car is about a 1/24 scale car if you sat them like side by side in an overall length sort of way.
That makes sense.
It's wise to wire to me as large scale 1/12th, but AMTs are 1/16th. And then everybody screams they want 1/18th, which is a die cast scale for the most part. There aren't very many plastic kits in that bracket. If you like it, you got to build it in the scale it comes in, I guess. But to me, that makes sense.
Your own.
When I say 1/20th scale, I mean even like the resin 3D printed F1 cars, they're in 1/20th scale. The stuff that Alpha did in F1s, those are 1/20th too. That's the scale those come in.
I'm looking at the comments. Tim's Custom says he's going to build an IndyCar S10 mashup in 1/20th scale. I want to see that. That sounds cool.
He's the man to do it.
Last week, Tim was threatening to make a what was it? A Liberty Walk F85 streaker Oldsmobile.
Nice. That's a good idea.
We got on a topic of the Liberty Walk Aoshima kits, and they're doing another one of those. And so yeah, that was where that went downhill quickly. So no over fenders on a gasser. Why not? I mean, hey, they both over fenders on everything else at this point. Does
pulling terrible ideas.
Okay, in a semi-serious thing, because I want to grab something off camera here that'll give you guys something to talk about. Anybody in the chat have any actual God, asking for serious questions only is probably going to get me a whole bunch of crap in this comment section. But does anybody actually have any real questions for Sean about anything? Keep in mind he can't talk about kits that are coming out in the future and stuff like that.
The floor is yours, everyone.
Ask him something you've always wanted to know about Sean.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you a story while we're waiting on questions. So there's a couple cool box art projects that I worked on that never got reissued or never actually saw the light of day. So there's I had worked on at one point in time. Model King was going to reissue a 70 Mercury Cyclone funny car.
Ooh.
Or what we thought it was a funny car. So he had, because he was at that point in time, they were digging through the old tools trying to find stuff that was reissued and had never seen the light of day in a long time. And of course the people at Racing Champions didn't really know exactly what they had. They found some tooling that was labeled Mercury Cyclone, and they knew it was some kind of race car. They thought it was a drag car. And me and Dave were like, that's amazing. Like Mercury Cyclone, 71 Cyclone. Oh yeah, we got to do that. So he goes and buys a mint unbuilt MPC 71 Cyclone funny car. Now, if you know that kit, it came with the stock body, like a perfectly stock, correct wheelbase body. But it had, and back in that time, back in the 70s, I think MPC was kind of notorious for having a generic funny car chassis that they would put under the stock body and have an alternate kit. And I think they did that with kind of the 60, 68, 69, 70 Super Bs and some other stuff.
Right.
So we thought we were going to reissue that kit, and he sent me an unbuilt kit, and I started building it and designed decals for it. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll put the stock stripes for the Mercury spoiler in it, and some other. I'll do the 60 or the 70 and a 71. So I'll have both versions, and I'll do the white and the black stripes, and everybody will really like it because they'll have all the stock, deep, because they'll have a stock body. So we got really far into this project, and then and meanwhile he tells around racing champions, go ahead and run a test shot of it and then send us to it so we can see what it is. So they shipped me the kit, and I opened the box, and I'm like, that's not a funny car. So what they had was the what ended up being the stock car, the NASCAR version of the 71 cycle. In fact, let's see, do I have it handy? Yeah, I have it. So it's this one. This kit right here was the reissue of the Woods Brothers 71 Mercury. And so I ended up, what I had to do is, because I build these illustrations in Photoshop in layers, and they're hand done on a Wacom tablet with a stylus. Luckily, because I had done it this way and not traditionally, what I was able to do was salvage the artwork that I had started, because originally this was done as a funny car, a stock bodied funny car. So I had to go in and repaint the grill and make it look like a NASCAR grill, and then change basically everything over to make it a NASCAR
stock car, right?
The stock car. But this was originally it was yellow, and the reason it had the stock stripes on it was because it was going to be a funny car in yellow with different graphics for it. So that was it was a bummer, because I thought that kit would have been really cool. And so then later on, because I'd had a stock body and it was already painted in that color, I started looking around and realized that the Revell 70 Torino had a perfect stock chassis and interior that would just drop right in place in the MPC body. And so I ended up, it wasn't right away, but like years later, I had a painted body that was sitting around in the stock colors, and I had a chassis. I'm like, hey, I can kit bash these. And I ended up building a stock version of the
I love those two cars.
Yeah. So that's a cool kit. I'm surprised, maybe I don't know. Maybe someday, eventually, round two will get around to retooling and I think I know the stock bodies was converted over to the NASCAR, so it would have to be retooled or modified in order to get a stock version of it. But maybe you'll see a version at some point someday.
James, show us what you've got there. Tell us about what you have.
All right. So what I have is from my box of few things that have survived my childhood and 6 or 7 moves over the course of the years. This is a 1/20th scale Lindbergh Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. Didn't paint this. This is molded in this it was high shine plastic. Is one thing the 1/20 scale kits had going for them. So stuff, pieces and parts that are painted, obviously. But I mean, it had oops, too far off the camera. I mean, it had a reasonably detailed engine for what it was. It has a a full ladder frame chassis and everything underneath of it. God, look at the fact that when I was like 14 years old, I didn't sand the mold lines off anything or take care of those tires or nothing. Now I paint this. That was just some awesome childhood thing. And then this is the Nissan hard body pickup truck that they did. And again, it's a Nissan with a whole engine in it. Like, that's too much chrome in there to get a good picture of it. But and the same thing with that. It's got a full full chassis underneath of it. Everything's were separate pieces. Like these are really nice for being the wrong scale. Really nice model because they even came with the Moroni sticker in the window for the. That's just never gonna focus, but I say both of them do. Both of them have actual like factory, use factory Moroni stickers on them. Yeah, like they thought them out. The decals were nice, and they're really nice kits. Can't tell you why I kept those, other than the fact that they look good unpainted. But it was a thing. I'm not on camera. That it's a shame that those weren't in 124 scale.
Yeah, I agree. That Nissan body, hard body kit is actually a pretty nice kit. I would probably build one of those.
All right, so
questions in the right scale.
Questions from the peanut crowd here. Sean, what box art inspires you in your style?
I definitely gravitate towards the 60s, 70s style. So a lot of that, back in that era, that was before they were really doing a lot of photography. So even the car manufacturers, they had employed artists, painters that did brochures and advertising. And photography wasn't really, it was very difficult because of the printing processes to kind of implement. So that didn't come around to like this, mid 70s or so. And that there's a certain style that's sort of the gouache, cold press illustration. And when I went to art school, there were still some old timers around who knew how to do that kind of stuff. And I remember taking some illustration classes and learning some of those techniques, and never really applied them like professionally in my career, but I did sort of learn about how to do them. And that I just really like that style. I think it's really, it's from an era it's from a time period that I was really young and kind of impressionable, I think. And the cars were always painted in a very dramatic style. The perspective was like forced. It's like the bumpers like right in your face, and the lighting was just like really cool. And I think my favorite kit from a box art standpoint, you can Google this. Revell made a 1/32 scale 68 Plymouth Barracuda, and Revell had a really the illustrator that they had employed with him just did amazing. He mostly, there's a book about him, I forget his name. He mostly did aircraft and warships. He did a few cars, and he happened to do this 1/68 Barracuda. And I remember having that kit as a kid and just like staring at the box like all the time and kind of studying how it was painted. And I think I still remember it very vividly, that image. And so I always keep trying to recreate that image.
That look. Okay.
Yeah, that look.
Did you find it yet, James?
I actually did.
I knew you would.
I'd say now it's a question of where it went.
It's yellow.
Yeah, I know.
It looks like it's kind of racing in at night, and the lights are on, and see the speed streaks. I don't know. It's just a really cool. I've done a couple different box art illustrations in a very similar style, and yeah, that one there.
Yes, that is. I can see your influence there. Yep, I can see it.
This software not the easiest to work with when you're trying to grab something at the last minute. But yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I can certainly see the follow on there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So next up here we have. This is more of a general question. I don't think this is meant to be like what box art didn't you want to do, but what was one kit that you've built that I don't know, you were sad that you decided to build? A project that you didn't want to, that after starting you didn't want to do.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of it. Nothing really comes to mind. I mean, I like anything on wheels. So there's even been some things that I was like initially, I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of meh. But then when I start building it, I started to get and start. I'll often like do a lot of research prior to building a kit. So I'll go online and start studying, and try to like understand the history of the car and the different versions that are available, especially if it's an actual car like a race car or muscle car. I really do a lot of research to try to understand what are the unique details of it, and that's usually what will trigger my interest is kind of learning the backstory and learning the variations that exist and trying to figure out how would I make mine, maybe slightly unique version of it. Um, so I'm trying to think of something that. Well, so here's a good example. So this, where was it? So this Ed Roth kit. This is actually not really something I would normally like. I'm not, the goofy, that kind of stuff. It's not really my style. But it was interesting. So when they asked me to do the project, I had to go do a lot of. I had no idea really of the history of Ed Roth, and I didn't know anything about that garage. And they said, he's like, they'd sent me pictures of his actual garage, and they said we want to build something like that. So I had to go and find as much research as material and try to understand. And there's several different variations of that garage over time. He had, so I ended up designing what is kind of an amalgamation, I guess, my own interpretation of a series of different garages that he had. But I got sort of interested in it, through working on it. And then I was like, oh, this is really cool. Now I actually want to build one. So I ended up buying with my, I think I bought the Beatnik Banded. Yeah, I bought one of these kits. I haven't even taken the plastic off yet. But I bought one of them because I wanted to be able to build one and then sit it next to the paper garage to just have it on display. So I haven't built it. Maybe I probably never will, but someday I might.
So I think the better way to phrase that question would have been to borrow from the Model Geeks podcast. They use the term, they're all a bunch of Navy guys, so they use the term colonizing in the sense of course, when countries colonized other countries, they destroy them. If there's nothing you come across, it's just gotten to a certain point and then went woof, off into the trash bin to never see the light of day again.
Is there anything I've ever started building, you think? And
yeah, that's more like that question was. It's like everything you've ever started building that you just hated to the point where it took the express train to the curb. They mean it in the literal sense of throwing it across the room and breaking it, but I think we're a little above
no,
where we're pitching models across the house.
Like I say, I have pretty low standards. I will see something through to the end, kind of like no matter how bad it is. Actually, my computer's about to lose sleep. Yeah, I will see things through to the bitter end. Usually, I may not share it with everybody, but there's just a certain point where I feel committed to it. Like, okay, I'll see it through. And usually, I guess I've built enough models. I feel like I'm gonna jinx myself by saying this. I feel like I can save pretty much anything. I haven't had one so bad that I couldn't salvage it in some
finish it.
Yeah. Now I do have a couple. I've got one. I'm on year about 15 or 16. I'm still waiting for the paint to dry, and I haven't given up hope on it. Someday it may actually dry enough where I could finish it, but I haven't.
Tester's enamel?
Let's say the tester's enamel black.
Yeah, no. So it's a Flintstone resin kit, and I had made a poor choice in deciding to spray it without primer. I sprayed it with Tester's Model Master, like turquoise metallic. It went down great. Looks beautiful. I'm still 15 years later, so it's still a little tacky. And I'm like, it keeps getting closer. Like it's not as tacky as it used to be, but it's not quite yet to the point where I can handle it. So the parts are still sitting in a box and maybe
Waiting, waiting.
that was taught me a lesson that I need to first clean the resin really well, which I thought I did, but obviously not enough. And then secondly, primer before paint. So
Sean has started a 30-year project into chemical reactions.
yeah.
There have been a few things tossed into the comments here in name of suggestions, which is, you're not in charge of it, so that's not the not the proper place or time. But that wasn't what I wanted. This one, your personal career aside, what is one model kit that you would like to see remade?
That's a good question. I mean, so many of them have come back out. And it actually, I tease Steve all the time about. I'm like, you're systematically ruining my model collection, like destroying the value of it. Because I've bought a lot of stuff that I wanted. Like, there's not a lot of things that I actually want to see reissued because I probably have a version of it already, and I probably paid more than I really wanted to for it. So if it comes out now, I'm going to be disappointed. I am trying to think of something. I mean, there's still a lot of cool stuff that hasn't been reissued. I mean, that 71 Cyclone, I'd probably build another one if there was an opportunity. I've always really liked that car. I love like the 70s, especially like 1970 seems to be the sort of the pinnacle of like overly dramatic styling.
Yeah.
That one is this. If you look at the front of it, it just got there's a good 18 to 20 inches of engine or room between like the fan blade and the radiator, and like there's nothing going on in the front. Like, it's just styling for the sake of styling, and I think those cars look really cool. And yeah, I'd probably buy one if they reissued that one.
I would like to see a 70 GTO.
Yep, that's a good one too. How about you, James?
Mr. Goldman, and tell him, hey, you put a 65 to 68 out. How about a 70 or a decent 72? How about we stop recycling that awful old MPC thing? Now, I already have one of these, as I'm going to show you here in a second, but I think this is a good suggestion. How about we go find, and I think a lot of it's sitting underneath the 70, and the body is what got taken and made into a funny car. But how about a reissue of the 67 Cougar?
Nice.
Like, this is a complete kit. You asked me what's the most I've ever spent on this. This is an alpha model expense to have an original one of these. Like, I think a 67 or 68, and I know the difference between the two is the side marker lights. Otherwise, the two kits are identical. But,
I've got a Builder 68 waiting for its turn on my bench.
I think, because it was the 69 that they redid, right? Yeah, 69 and the 70. I think they all share the same chassis and the engine and all that stuff. It was just the body to those earlier ones is not here anymore. And the 70 too. I'd see them redo the 70 Cougar because that body is floating in the ether someplace.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Now the 70 is an MPC, right? I think it is. I think the 70 is an MPC, and
I believe it is. I believe
that's why
AMT
had, they went up through the 69, then didn't do a 70. That's why they've reissued the 69 several times, because that still existed. I don't know what became of the 70 MPC.
I'd say I don't think it ever was reissued at any point in the past.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what happened to the contents of that, but yeah, because it's a it's a little bit of a different car, as far as the styling on that 70 is compared to the
Mercuries are cool. I like Mercuries.
I'm saying, somebody saying a new Tool 67 Cougar. That's one of those things that you could very well, not very easily, as I spend someone else's money. But it's one of those things that could be done in the evolution of these, as I'm calling the new refresh of the old tools, like the coronet and all that stuff, where they're
Right.
tool a new body to it, throw it on the innards of the old stuff, fix it up a little bit, get rid of the I've talked with James and I've talked a bunch of times with the separate headlights and the separate taillights and all those little upgrades that they're doing to these old kits that make them not only acceptable but a lot better than they were originally. That's they'd sell at 67, 68. I mean, they're reissuing that god awful 73. I mean, if the guys over at round two are sitting around their little conference table, and this is again no shot round two. We know those guys.
They
we
don't
love
watch
those.
us. They don't watch
Yeah,
us.
well, I'm just saying, just in general, like if somebody just sat around and said, you know what we need to do is reissue that kit, then I think you could sell a 67 without arguing about it.
I don't know. I think that kit's kind of cool. I
mean,
I've got one. I don't need another one, but I have a plan to build it.
If they would factory stock it all the way back, I would be happy, but that's still a little too much street machine for my purist taste.
I really
know they put a flat hood in it.
I like to build phantom muscle cars, like muscle cars that didn't exist, and I always thought it'd be cool to like do an eliminator version of the 73, as if Mercury had continued, the eliminators on past 71, right? So
there you go.
Whoops, that's not. That keeps moving on me. That her past kidney stones are more enjoyable. I'll take your word for it. I've not suffered from that malady as of yet. But I mean, wait a minute, that is an NPC kit. That may be where the 70 is actually. That come to think of it, because that 70.
Well, now that you say that, you're probably right. I think that is because I actually I've got a 71 builder. Like this is the 71 came as I don't know if you guys remember this. They did a series of kits that were like fogged, like they were molded in plastic. It's hard probably to tell. And then they're actually airbrushed with like a fogged. I think they did a Charger.
Yes.
And the 71 Cougar. And that might be, to your point, that might be where the 70 ended up. Probably got converted into a 71 and then a 72 and exists as a 73. So maybe all they need is just a new body on the old chassis. I don't know.
But the old chassis won't do anymore. We're in 2024 now. We have to do.
It's good enough for me.
This is an awesome box art. I got to share this because my internet connection over here is just cranking tonight. But at the same time, I can still Google pretty well. Pre-painted fogging. There you go.
It's cool. Look at that. 70s.
I do appreciate the portrait rather than the landscape orientation of the box art too. You don't see too much of that.
Wow.
But yeah, 71 Cougar. Yeah, I mean, I bet you that is. And now that we're sitting here talking about it, I bet you that is what that is. That's where the 70s innards are.
Yeah, most likely.
Because
that was kind of a neat concept. I mean, I don't know. I wonder, like, who was the guy that said, "Hey, let's airbrush these things and a pre-fogged, and we'll make a kit that way." I can imagine, people sitting on assembly line, breathing paint fumes as they're airbrushing like these things all day long before OSHA standards were a thing.
So the kits really it's airbrushed with a lacquer or something? It's not molded in that?
No, it's not. It's not molded. Well, it's molded in green, and it literally looks like they just took an airbrush and sprayed a darker color. It's kind of hard to tell.
I'll be darned. I thought that was molded that way.
And it looks like the the plastic is molded in a flake. It's got like a glittery. You wouldn't be able to see it on there probably, but it's actually
Right.
got like a moldy, glittery kind of flake that's embedded in the plastic.
Huh.
Now we got on to the history. This is 72. Here's 72s, which has the old NPC kit idea contest. You may win a trip to the 72 Indy 500 or a Rip Money Mini Dune Bug. This got discussed not too recently about whatever happened to the prizes to this. A go-kart or a mini bike or 1,000 other prizes. Blank entry inside. Contest closes January 21st, 1972. So this must have been came out in 71 and up. But yeah, Dan Gurney invites you to enter. But there's that version of it, which doesn't seem to include anything about it, but it is the fun group at General Mills.
General Mills.
I thought the breakfast cereal people were the fun thing, but the 73, which is sort of where the cat comes from, is, if you notice here, it has a beautiful metallic red paint job already applied to the body.
Mm.
So apparently that after fogging, it took a year for everyone to recover from their lung cancer, and then we brought it back. Go on, you guys are already effed anyway, so why don't you paint these because I don't think that these, like, there's no stock wheels in the cat. I don't think that the stock
I think it does have stock wheels in it actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know they replaced they put in back in like a stock exhaust in this reissue, because I've seen the photos of that. But got a vinyl top that's pebble grain, easy to paint for added realism. Yeah, cool.
What were the 3 big bonuses? Can you zoom that in?
That 3 big bonuses down here will be an American Scene 1973 contest Street is Neat belt badge and a special offer coupon. It's a NASCAR race version. I don't believe NASCAR. The 73 Cougars were raced in NASCAR at that point.
It's a pace car. I think it maybe.
Maybe that's a
500 pace car.
Yeah.
Actually, that box art is really cool.
They
should have reissued in that. Maybe we'll do a version of that at some point.
Go get Salvino's. Rick Salvino's dad is the one that did all the STP sales stuff.
You know, now that I've seen that, I'm like, I want to build that. I want to build that. Cool. So this is what happens. I see something. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I would build. I hadn't ever given any consideration. Now I know it exists, and now I want to build it.
Well, we should just put Sean on as the third chair, and then we'll just weekly or bi-weekly we'll just destroy his budget. You know?
Yeah, and entice me into building something I had no plan to build. Right. This is why I never get around to building the things that I want to build. It's because there's always another. I don't know about you guys. I'm really bad for wanting to build the kit that I don't have. Like I obviously I have plenty of kits to build. I never can get inspired to build one of those. I'm like, no, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need to go to the hobby store to get a kit.
Every show, man. Every show.
Can't get excited about building one I already have.
I have told the story a number of times since I started. I've been on YouTube for 8 years, and don't ever go back and Google those old videos. There, if you think this content sucks, you should go back and watch 8-year-old James videos. But it came into a point of, like, as I worked through the weekly shows, I got to know like Ed Sexton at Revell and a number of people with these Japanese model companies, so that I was starting to get the hints of what was coming next and seeing test shots and stuff like that, and got really into all of the various shows where new products are premiered and stuff like that. And I got into a thing of like, okay, well, I know it's coming for the next like 5 months. What's after that? People were like, I don't even know that kit was coming. Yeah, well, I knew that was coming 4 months ago. What's after that? What's after that? I get a model kit in, and it's like, oh, cool, it's here. Funk. So next thing coming is going to be, it's. I think a lot of us don't remember the good old days of the self-addressed stamped envelope to Hobby Heaven to get the gigantic flipping catalog that they used to put out that would have a text listing of the kits that were coming and the approximate date of delivery, and things just magically showed up at the hobby shop. I see a lot of people. What was it? I'm trying to think what subject I was reading on model cars the other day. Oh, it's the 85 Blazer that Revell's doing for the Stranger Things. And I guess allegedly, according to what the story is, Wes's Model Car Corner, who does the asphalt modifieds in conjunction with Salvino's, now sort of has more of an in with the model companies than he did when he was just vending, has seen test shots. And everybody else is like, why didn't we see test shots? Like, we are not that far removed of the idea that kit showed up on the shelf one day at Toys R Us. You're like, holy crap, there's a Blazer here. We never had this information when we, all of us in this room, were growing up. We just, model kits magically showed up. You might have the blueprinter if you felt like paying the $10 a month or whatever it was to get, or a year to get that sent to you. That would tell you what AMT Ertl was doing in advance, 3 months or so. But test shots, what are test shots? Like, nobody knew how models were made. They just magically arrived at Kmart one day.
Yeah, I know. I remember, having a subscription to, like Car Model Magazine, and and they would announce something coming on, like, that was like a huge, and it'd be like once a year, like maybe you'd hear something, now of course it's now
Every
like
minute.
Well, Mobeus will tell you about something they are thinking about building like 3 years from now.
Well, that tow truck's a great example. They had at the IPMS Nationals in Las Vegas, which is going back 4 years ago this summer, a piece of paper. I don't have it on. I think it's on my phone, but not anywhere else. That was a CAD image of that tow truck sitting there with their other stuff. There's a dump truck somewhere in the plans that rides that same chassis that the tow truck is on, and it's 4 years later in that kit before that kit's going to come out. Like, and now they're touting that 72 Chevy. That as far as I have heard, it's not a real thing. It's just like, oh, we're going to do that eventually. But
right, it's
what's that 72 Chevy coming out? I don't know, 2027 maybe, if we're still all here when that. The eclipse didn't kill us today, so I guess we're still chugging along all right.
They will release no kit before it's ready. So,
so are we looking for 4 years from now to get those Chevy pickup trucks?
I have no idea. You guys know. I know.
All
I ever know is when they're like, "Hey, we need box art," so now we're ready for that. I'm like, that's usually about. So I sometimes know, about things that are coming out ahead of time, but usually not. The things happen so fast on the internet. They will mostly, probably somebody else will hear about it before I do,
right?
Or that they're going to, do these things, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna give you that box art project." Okay, cool.
Oh, plus with Pegasus owning Mobeus, they move at the speed of cash. They're not ones to extend a line of credit out on what they're doing the way that Winspur did when he owned Mobeus, and it was like 87 Ford trucks all at once. These aren't selling. No, there's too many of them all at once, Matt. It was a great concept, but there's too many of them. We don't.
Right.
I mean, with the tow truck, I think we're at 13 of those altogether, with the ramp truck, the tow truck, and all of the other associated ones. Like, and I keep buying them. I told him last episode I own every single one of them. Why? I don't need this many Ford pickup trucks. I don't even like Ford pickup trucks, but and somebody was saying, well, why don't they put this cab into that tow truck? I'm like, golly, go buy another one. You got 10 of them. Put another cab from another truck in there. It's the same thing with like the service bed truck. I don't know. Did you do the box art for the service bed?
Yeah.
When it was Model King? Yeah, okay. Yep. But like that service bed will fit on any 8-foot bed chassis that they made. Any of them. The cabs will interchange. Everything interchanges with them. They're the greatest kit bash model that was ever created. Well, they need to release that with the whatever. I'm like, no, I think you could just go grab one and make a 72 on your own. I don't need to make each individual year with the service bed on the back of it.
If you're patient enough, you may eventually see that combination.
Yeah, it's true.
They were very smart in the way that they designed that, and there's more versions of that's in the planning stages that I know about that will someday probably see the light of day. You haven't seen all the variations that
Oh,
are.
I know. I know.
As if 14 wasn't enough. Come on.
Oh yeah. Still got that. Still got that day 2 Yee 4x4 to put out that has the gun rack and the winch on the front and all that. That was something that's been shown probably 3 or 4 different years worth of shows at this point. It's still, well, it's coming someday.
Yeah, and the tooling's done for that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're selling the gun. I believe if I'm not mistaken, that the wheels and tires set to
Yeah.
that, and then the winch are being sold on, and the
Yeah.
gun rack are all being sold by Mobeus online or through
Yeah,
Pegasus.
I have them, and they're nice. Yeah, the tires are super nice. Yeah.
Just with the comment sections going after each other over there. Kevin Smith showed up, and now we're beating him up for being like Kevin Smith, the director. Poor guy. But yeah, I mean, it's. I have no issue with what they're doing.
No.
I think it's. I mean, I hope this is the Chevy pickups get the same attention in terms of a broad width of them, and maybe when he gets done with those, we'll do some Dodge pickup trucks. Because I think that's probably the one thing that everyone is always screaming, like, why didn't they just make a set of 70 Dodge pickup trucks? And
Yeah, that's if I had to have one all new kit, I think that mid 60s to 70s era Dodge pickup is the one that I'd love to see a new kit of. I really like that. It's a really funky kind of looking body style, but there's something kind of cool about it. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of different variations you could get out of it, and that's one that I'd love to see. I know that I think Jimmy Flintstone's got a new resin kit of it.
yeah, he is selling
Yes, the swept side. Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of guys picked that up in Detroit.
Yeah, I might even. I'm kind of hoping he's going to have that at NL East, and I may end up adding another resin kit to my collection, which I don't need. But if I see it, I might have to have it. And it's funny because I never, prior to the Ford pickups, I don't think I'd ever really built a pickup. Like I didn't even really have that much. It was, case in point, I didn't have much interest in it until somebody showed me, and then I started to get interested. Now I got to have it, right? So I built one, and I'm like, oh, these are kind of cool. And I was forced to build another one, and I'm like, oh, these are kind of cool. Now I want to build them too.
I say, staying
Yeah.
within the Mobius family, you didn't have to convince me to buy the Chrysler 300s. Like the 300 cars are something I'm interested in. I actually have like the Johan Chrysler 300s too. But you couldn't have told me what the hell a Hudson Hornet was when they started talking about that. But I have 5 of them now. I have one of like each of them because you start, like you said, oh, I'll do a little research into a Hudson. And I'm like, oh, it was this and it was that, and I was like, oh, what's this version? Oh, it's a down trim like holiday coupe. Well, why not? We might as well buy that anyway since I have all the rest of these. Why not? And they all have it because at least the Hudsons, to my understanding, had a little bit of influence from John Mueller in the kit design. They all have that like late '90s AMT build quality to them, which to me was what I had when I was growing up. So they're like, this is what AMT would have been if had the catastrophe of Racing Champions not befallen them in the fall of 1997. Like, this is where we would, well, they'd probably be even better, but this is what those kits would have been if we would have got that 50 Oldsmobile that Walmart managed to cancel because nobody wants to buy a model of that, that sort of thing. Like they have a certain engineering that's, I don't know, comforting to me is the wrong word, but it hits all my nostalgia feels. I'm not a real nostalgic guy. Every box art is, the original box art from 1960 doesn't, I appreciate the box art for what it is, but it doesn't do anything for me. The inclusion of the old instructions, some that me and Steve have talked about privately, like these little postcards, instruction sheets from the 1960s, like they're cool and a nostalgia feel, but like, dude, I could use a set of actual instructions to put this thing
Right.
together, like AMT
Yeah.
did in those kits, So yeah, the Hudsons, the Fords, the Chryslers, I have them because like I bought the Hudson. And I went, oh, this is familiar to me. Like even though I don't know this car from a hole in the wall, this kit feels familiar to me. And then the Ford came out and same thing. So keep cranking them out. Give me my 65 Coronet or whatever it is that they're doing next. The Ultra Wheelbase doesn't do anything for me. This guy over here will buy a whole pile of them, but
Yeah,
you've been all over that Ultra Wheelbase.
I want the stock one.
Well, all right, fine. Get the day 2 one.
Where's that? I just got a pre-print of the box for the 65 Ultra Wheelbase.
Yes, yeah, I know that's coming.
Yeah.
That's like literally around the corner somewhere.
Yeah. So that just came in the mail the other day. So I, at least for Mobeus, they'll often send me an approval to check over the artwork and make sure that was. And actually, so the decals, they're in the kit.
Rock on.
So this one is close. You can see they've printed the boxes.
Printed the decals. Yeah.
It's getting closer. So yeah, I had done the instruction artwork for the A990 and the sedan, the more pedestrian version of the sedan. What is it, Coronet?
Yeah.
So those, I think all 3 of those kits will get done at the same time. So that's kind of why they're sort of waiting, I think, to get them all lined up so they could just run a production run all at the same time.
Yeah, enough of that tooling interchanges. It doesn't make sense to rack it in and out 3 different times.
Right.
So it's close.
Well, yeah. So, gentlemen, I think we're at 2 hours and 21 minutes. Yeah. I think
Mr. Tester, unless you have anything else on the
We're having so much fun.
I know. We can have more fun in 2 weeks.
That's right. We can always have Sean back on. This is a good time.
Yeah, and I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you.
I say, folks out there in the audience, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. We will be back again in 2 weeks, which will be a mere 3 days before we all pull out to head out to Jersey for NNL East, because that's the Monday. We'll all be out there Friday night, I assume. I don't know, Sean, what you're making travel plans for you, but I know that the 2 of us will be out there Friday night. And yeah, appreciate everybody joining in. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the other side.
See ya.
See ya.